Oh wait, did I like? Hello, there we go. Sorry about that. My goodness, it is a rough day. Ah, no, it does it sound like I'm on my phone? Yeah, that much I know. Here, one moment, please. Hello. Okay, sorry about that. Greetings, viewers and listeners. Welcome to Heroes of Thylea, an actual play show and podcast produced by Lionhead Gaming. This production is the Lionhead Gaming version of Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, an epic 1 to 20 adventure book for D&D 5th edition, created by Arcanum Worlds. A blend of classic high fantasy with Greek mythology to create an epic saga of an adventure, combined with my own changes to create something unique and wonderful that I hope both you and my excellent cast of close friends enjoy. And so, with that, I want to let the cast reintroduce themselves and their characters.
Hello, I'm Brendan, he, him, and I play Sophia, the Stygian philosophy wizard. We are all just pawns in a game of which we do not understand the rules.
Hi, I'm Nikki, they, them, and I play Imperia, the nymph Amazonian ranger. Dragons. There's just such awe-inspiring creatures.
I'm Mel, she, her, and I play Nyx, the nymph prophecy cleric.
I've spent centuries asking questions, and the only ones who have ever answered me are the stars.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Peter, my pronouns are he, him, and I play Trace, the human hoplite fighter. Remember what has been lost. Fight for what hasn't been.
I'm Nick, he, him, and I play Theamos, the human dragon lord paladin. Okay, Sophia. What's irritating, doesn't go away, and makes you miserable? A lich. Get it? Because it's a play on It's Your No Fun. Mercury would have laughed at that joke.
Maybe he would have. As with that, it is time for us now to begin with a recap from the one and only Nikki.
Hi. After the battle with the owl bears, our heroes found a place to camp, sheltering out of the blizzard in Sophia's bubble. While scouting, Imperia found some interesting feline tracks and asked everyone to be on guard, even though no one knew what they might belong to. Mercury made a couple of strange comments that everyone just kind of wrote off as Mercury being Mercury. In the morning, our heroes emerged and continued their trek up the mountain. Eventually, they started hearing a strange sound and realized they were walking on ice. Halfway through carefully making their way across the ice, our heroes were accosted by large, steaming insects, creatures of both the icy water and fire. After a brief but intense battle, our heroes were forced to flee by the looming presence of more of the creatures, only twice in size. As the group was scattered, fleeing took some time, however, aided by Mercury's magic. Mercury, who stood as Horatius stood on the bridge to Rome, single handedly holding off the enemies to buy his companions time. Mercury, who dove as Horatius dove, heroic into the water. Mercury, who the companions were forced to leave behind. Kira crying even as she chivied them forward and away. And that is where we begin today. Our heroes running and shocked, not yet knowing grief.
Oh, you dork. Well said. Oh. As with that, your mythic inspiration resets and is set to 1. As indeed, the blizzard whipping all around you, the sounds of ghostly, ethereal ice quickly leaving behind with the crash and crack of rocks hewn from a strange sort of rising cliffside by some of the last magic thrown by Sophia, trapping both these strange, hot, cold monstrosities and Mercury potentially beneath the ice in a stony bombardment. As only a few moments later, you find yourself in the midst of this quickly sort of snow blinded valley, a few sparse trees here and there, and you can see the sort of rocky framework that seems to be wrapping and carrying you guys forward. But looking back, maybe 30, 40 feet is just snow and the wind blistering into your face. You can't even really see behind you at this point, but now you don't hear the shriek and call of these strange monsters, nor feel their thunderous and rapid, multi-legged footsteps skittering across the earth towards you. You are away from this battle, away from your fallen ally, and in the snow once more. Stop it.
Any
Sophia
caves
squad.
nearby we can take shelter in.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to see with, just like you can look forward maybe about 40 feet and around you in the same sort of area. The storm just continues to hammer down on you. You can give me a survival check, though, with these blizzard conditions being what they are now. It is hampering your vision to the point of you needing to roll normally in spite of your advantage.
What if I help her?
Unfortunately, it does not stack that way. Poof! Yeah,
Damn.
looking around where
Nat
you're
one.
at with a nat 1, you just see snow sort of careening into the mountain along the sides. You think maybe trying to stick to one of the walls and just follow along that way will eventually get you to some degree of cover, but you don't see anything immediately apparent.
I
It
can't
seems
find
like
shelter as the storm rages on.
Just have to do our best to get out of the path. Sophia can put up a bubble.
Yes, anywhere will work. As after Sophia's flight magic ran out, you can see that she's trying to step in the footprints as you guys sort of lead the way, but she is struggling.
Yeah, all of us have like 2 exhaustion, right?
Yeah.
a fair number of you do. I think you might have been spared. I think Theamos is good, and that might be it.
Uh-huh.
As pushing forward takes more time than it would have otherwise. It seems, though you would not know, a few safe refuges passed in spite of adequately being able to fit you all, as they are just outside of your sight, unable to be seen or picked up, or the signs of their presence alerted to you as you're struggling to find a place, Nyx. And so you end up walking for about another hour and 15 minutes or so as it just starts to sort of sap at your strength, needing to push through this blizzard for longer than you anticipated. As I let's see, which tier are you guys at?
I love how happy you sound about making us exhausted.
Let me tell you, it's really rare that you actually get to use that condition.
That's true.
Blizzard beats down, DC 17. As pushing on through this blizzard is just going to take more and more of your strength, especially since you've been walking for so long all throughout the day already.
Jesus! We
Yay,
are all
us!
rolling like ass!
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Mm.
Thamos,
So this is what
you
kills
will
us,
be
huh?
Give the Billy check. Well,
We died to a snowstorm. Classic.
What if we just rest for like a full 24 hours?
It was supposed to be a saving throw, but did I not hit the right button? I must have not have. But none of your guys' none of your proficiencies.
Saved
I don't
us.
think our proficiencies can save us.
Because yeah,
Perfect. It was
Theamos'
like a 9.
charisma is what, 3? So you'd add 6. Yeah, so that would not take anyone over. As the cold is just biting in, as where are my d6s? As all of you that fail take 11 cold damage, just trudging through the snow and ice and withstanding the wind sapping your strength as you push forward, as it is finally at about 6:46 p.m. Nyx, you finally see this sort of break in the blizzard through the stream of white like coming across your face. You can see just like snow, sort of void, and then snow, indicative of a break in that wind. Something is providing a bit of space, something that could provide shelter. Finally,
I missed it. What happened to us for failing?
you took 11 cold damage.
Yeah. We'll
Yay.
get 2 more levels of exhaustion.
What do you
not
mean we
quite.
don't have 4 levels?
Did that just
of
literally
exhaustion?
kill us?
6. You
No,
need 6 to
we
die.
need 6.
Over there,
like,
we can
at-
at least.
At like 4 or 5, you just can't move anymore.
Yeah.
I see a space over there where we could be protected from the winds. Nyx is going to try to lead the way as best she could. Do I have a... What magic do I have? Do I have continual flame? Not prepared. So...
But you do have your sealed lantern
I do
on
have,
your
yes, I do have
on
a
your
lantern.
staff.
Duh. So yes, I make sure that my lantern is lit and is unhooded to provide as much light as possible, so that people don't lose me in the snow.
That would be bad.
It'd be awful.
Everyone hold on to the person in front of you.
Plastic tactics.
What tactics?
Classic.
Classic.
Yeah. It works.
OG
That's why it's
tactics.
classic.
Yeah, that's why we used it in the forest, so we wouldn't get lost.
There you go.
Indeed.
I'm right. We did.
You are right. We did.
And on the
But
shore.
also, how dare you?
As in short order, you guys find yourselves in this pocket refuge, sort of blocked away from the storm, but the shelter would not suffice if it were not for Sophia's protective magic. But at least it gets your back to the walls. Yes. Looking out, it's still some of just the same persistent blizzard and wind in front of you. And Kira seems a bit sort of withdrawn. She just has her scroll tucked away and just seems to be holding on to herself as she just seems to be looking out into the blizzard back where in the direction where you all came from.
Inferior's kind of doing the same thing, except she's not looking back to where we came from. She's just kind of like staring blankly in front of her. But she curls up on the ground, back against the wall, knees to chest, just arms around them. And Ibis is like grooming her hair.
Nyx just looks between Inferior and Kira and pulls out her horn of Balmatria and has it filled with wine and sits next to the goddess of music and offers it to her.
Without any sort of comment, she just sort of reaches down from her standing position, takes the horn by the lip, and just imbibes it. Just drinks a decent mouthful before passing it back to you.
Don't suppose the Oracle foresaw such a fate.
It seems she did. Moments before it happened.
What do you mean?
Whatever those creatures were, they were not of this place. Nothing like that exists on Thylea. There is no oath or divinity surrounding them. It is your story, your journey to take. But there are places where I can act. And the Oath of Peace allows me to act under specific circumstances as well. Like I did with that demonic invader. But in those fleeting moments, the Oracle stayed my hand. Told me to watch, to let him go, for he needed to go. I am granted and wield divinity, but I do not have the power of prophecy. I cannot see the future, even if I can run to meet it. But there is only two others I would trust more than Versi. and they were silent. They could not see. They did not speak.
Nyx quietly takes a sip of her wine. If I'd known our threats could easily change the direction of their weave, we might consider some actions. Well, some alternatives.
That's the dangerous thing about dealing with the Titans. Or even, on a lesser stage, the Fates. These things are so powerful, so connected to Thylea. They can pull on the strands in ways that even the Oracle cannot see until the very last moment.
The Fates are also capable of making oaths to those they visit. Do you know any stories of what it is they've asked of others before?
Only things that would truly harm those that would ask of their assistance. I ask a man who prides his beauty more than anything for his face. A mother who loves her family for her children's voice. Fate is cruel when wielded by them. She sort of just reaches back down for the horn.
Nyx takes another sip of it and lifts it back up to Kira.
I tried to ask my brother once what they asked of him. And she sort of drops the volume of her voice just low enough for you to hear. When he tried to find his wife.
Do I know which... Is she referring to, begins with an H. Can't remember the name.
Hexia.
There we go. I was gonna say Helvetica, but that's a font.
That is a font.
Close enough. Ah, yes, the font.
How to know you're a graphic designer? 101. Are you referring to Hexia? Or Theomos' mother?
The latter. Though I suppose they would be one and the same if rumors and prophecy are assumed to be true.
I'm sorry, what?
Not the same, but in the same place.
Ah. The Fates visited me after we slayed the Cerberus, back in the Forge. They approached me with an offer to make an oath of service to them. If they needed something from me, they would call in exchange. Gave me a riddle, a warning, of some noble who could not be trusted. I'm not sure if we've even met them yet. And I'm not sure if I'm going to meet them before they call for my aid.
What was the riddle?
Nyx closes her eyes and breathes in deeply as she recalls. With Heroes 7 and 2 labors done, your past now merged and destiny won. As power dwindles and faith now weak, the Pantheon's future may look bleak. But with your rise in fortune and fame, endeavor you must to not sour your name. Weapons to salvage and sparks of hope to light will prove to all of your collective might. Then called to answer by apparent lord, to city you'll travel to seek reward. But heed this warning and listen you must, for he is cunning and unworthy of trust. At the time I thought they were referring to Vitros, but the king didn't seem to care for our help. So I'm not entirely certain.
I think quite to the contrary. He seemed to demand a solution of you, and foist the responsibility upon you as well, at no risk to himself. If you failed, it was only his wife's reputation that would be truly tarnished, and I suppose your own. And he could simply tear down the temple and try to appease the Titans.
And considering at the time of us meeting him we did have Heroes 7, and we are no longer that, you must be right. It's a good thing we didn't trust him anyways. At least I didn't.
And hopefully you did not trust their fates. Making an oath with them would be less than wise.
They would not be so foolish to give me that riddle without one.
You see her just sort of reach behind her, pull out that very large scroll, and it just seems to unfurl in front of her. And her quill just seems to appear in front of it, and it just notes down some things before rolling itself up quickly. And
as she's writing, Nyx is just going to recount the dream that she had about the 3 eyes floating in this dark space that approached her and the voices she heard from them. Just telling her the dream that she had when she made the oath with these fates.
with greater detail, it records such passing before rolling itself up again.
I respect what it is that you are meant to do. At the very least, I can fill in some blanks and avoid theorizing.
It's interesting to hear such a thing.
How do you mean?
I mean, truly, you all are unlike any other group of heroes I've known. You all know 4 winds. Trapezing across the lands of Thylea with a entourage of fans and, well, a smile on your face in every city that you travel to. One of you is a forest-seeking recluse, yourself a fragile and damaged person who finds herself seeking the comfort of those who has to pay for such luxuries. Another, a member of a now almost defunct noble family, and a depressive person as well. And perhaps the greatest hope for your fame is with Theamos, but I do not know if he truly desires such things. His father hopes such passings for him, but he does not seem to be the fame and glory seeker that I thought he would be. And Atreus, stoic, a symbol, sure, but unless he is chock full of wise words and pithy sayings, he will be forgotten in due time, especially if you do not succeed. Fame is not a concern for, it seems, any of you. My chronicle is, as far as you know, without purpose. So it is interesting to me to hear you say that you understand it. But your deeds have greater purpose than you know. Something I cannot share, but requires them to be written nonetheless.
Ever the most observant. As Nyx finishes off the last bit of her wine, she stands up. But there is something that you seem to have missed, or at least misunderstood. I do not need to pay for the comfort in those brothels. Those people are my friends. It is not something I seek. Not those kinds of services, anyways. A lot of people seem to misinterpret that. Nyx walks on over and sits next to Impheria, just to see how she's doing.
Imperial doesn't say anything or really react in any way.
Does she let Nyx put an arm around her shoulders? Like a comforting hold.
She flinches, but doesn't say anything, doesn't shake her off.
It's
And her
okay.
shoulders remain pretty tense.
If she flinches, Nyx is just going to pull her arm away. Doesn't want to make it worse. But she just sits there.
Eventually, Imperial will say quietly, somehow I had convinced myself that this wouldn't happen this time.
I feel we've all made a similar assumption, being the chosen and all. I at least expected it to be him.
At the end of the day, even the queen can be sacrificed.
Are you actually at 10 laurels?
Probably. I don't know. I keep saying, like, hey, take laurels, but I don't know if it actually happens or not.
All right, well, I'm taking a laurel and giving you a laurel.
Nice.
When this happened before, at the first opportunity, I abandoned my remaining companions. I like to think I've grown since then. But were it not for the import of my quest, well,
We put your minds at ease. And I saw we did not abandon him. He had resigned himself. At first, I thought it might have been my words. We spoke, shortly before all of this, about his wavering faith. That he possibly did not believe so deeply in Kyra as he once did. And I instructed him that he may need to find another, someone more forthcoming, I suppose, more willing to take that worship and give results. Although My own words and my family's words have the tendency of spreading madness at times. And when I saw him there standing upon the ice, I thought that my words had gotten to him more deeply in a way I did not expect. Now we are told that he was told to die. Not given the choice. Sacrificed.
It's not. I believe that there's always a choice. The Oracle only stayed Kira's hand from helping. What instructed Mercury to take that action?
I'm assuming one and the same.
I would disagree. I would not have you devalue his sacrifice so.
That is where the issue lies. We as mortals are limited in perception. I will admit, his sacrifice may have a much greater meaning, might echo throughout this entire place and lead us to victory. But it is not something I can see. So it may have meaning. We can only pray that it does.
Only meaning it needs to have for me is that he did it willingly and wanting, and for his friends.
Indeed. At the end of all of this, it serves as a lesson. We are not invincible. We can be cast aside if fate necessitates it. We have to work so that it does not. Do not think yourself indispensable. For if the time comes that we must be put to the side and removed from the board, we may or may not have a word in it.
We can fight. We can always fight. I will never, never give up or lay down without a fight.
Good.
Nor will I let any of you
I will be honest with you all. I do not and never have believed in prophecy. What one can see the future simply means one can calculate the future. And she takes a piece of fuzz or so off of her shirt and just sort of sticks it on the ground in front of her. Do you know what the fates have in store? Such a small thing. What its future lies. Because I do. Its future shows that it will burn. As I cast a bit of magic, a bolt of flame fires out of my hands and burns the tiny little piece of fuzz to ash. A pebble falling from the tallest mountain, given the knowledge, can be calculated exactly where it will fall miles and miles below. It may not be in the perception of a mortal to be able to do so. But who's to say those others can't? I will fight, so we change the calculations. So when the fates see that we are doomed to failure, I will change the math. and make them wrong. Mercury did not get that chance. Did not see that I may have been able to save him. And I may have had the chance to prove the fates wrong. So I asked the same as Mercury would of us, as Inferior just stated. None of you give up. Do not prove the fates right.
I don't know about you, but I'm not here because of some prophecy. I'm here because someone has to stand up for Thylea. Someone must. If no one else will, then I shall. It's not like there's anyone to miss me if I fail.
What makes you think that?
We would.
Yes, but you're all here with me, Atreus. This was a journey that I started on after 13 years of having abandoned the only ones I knew. 13 years of being alone in the forest and thinking I had no family, no friends. Just the trees. Now I have you, but you are all here with me. If I fail, it will be because all of us failed. We will go to Thylea together.
Nyx is going to have the horn of Balmatria refill itself with some wine, and she's going to lift it up to the air. Toast to Mercury. He lived as he spoke his words, true to his heart. May his sacrifice not be in vain, but be the fuel we need to save Thylea from its doom.
Let it be so.
Nyx takes a sip. I think I'm going to turn in early. For the night I'm utterly exhausted.
As am I.
Do you have anybody with enough energy to take first watch?
I will struggle to sleep anyways, so I might as well.
I hand the horn to Inferior. This may help you sleep when the time comes.
Does it do mead or only wine?
I only conjure wine. I'm not certain. You can ask it.
How?
So, you got meat now?
Mead, please? Yeah, you do it. Imperial just hands it back to Nyx.
Ah, yes. Give me a moment while I try to look for the item in our folders.
Sophia preps her bag to make a potion and gets the fuck to sleep because she's passing the fuck out.
It only produces wine. Any wine of your desire, but only wine.
Mead wine.
Fine.
Mead
Mead
wine.
wine. Damn it. God.
The closest thing to that
Hive
would
mind.
be honey wine, which I'm
Honey
sure
wine.
exists.
Hive mind.
Honey wine, warm honey wine. It's gonna knock Inferior right out. Let me Google this.
Drop a grape in some mead. That's basically one.
So yeah, have to investigate.
Mold
the
honey wine, or no, honey mold wine. It's
There
just
you go.
mulled wine with honey in it.
So after investigating and confirming that this horn only does wine and not mead because it is not meant for peasants, Nyx is going to hand it back to Inferior and turn in for the night.
It's saying that mead is wine. I don't understand. Anyways. Google rabbit hole to the side. Honey mold wine would be great. Thanks. Thank you, Nyx. Imperia just kind of like curls around the horn full of warm beverage. Who am I
Alright.
waking for second watch?
Somebody say something.
I'll take second watch.
Something.
Sound died.
Is it
Sound
fixed?
died?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Aw. Thamos? Did Thamos say second watch?
Yeah.
Okay. Third?
Mouse me at fourth.
If it comes down to it, you can wake me for third.
Some sleep.
All right. So Inferia on first by her lonesome, then Thamos, then Nyx, then Sophia, and probably Atreus since he always gets to the fourth. Unless Atreus
I'd
is
sleep
sleeping
in
in.
if you let me. 8 hours. 8 hours. Hey, man.
Full night's sleep.
All night sleep. Do we
Looking.
recover? Do we
At the end of a
recover
long
one?
rest, we recover 1.
So we're still gonna be 1 level of exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Indeed.
Alright, Sophia, how many bubbles can you make so we can just camp out for 2 days in a row?
Yeah, right.
Get back
Certainly
our
could.
strength.
We probably should. Honestly, at this point, we need it.
Yeah, because if we survive 1 but we go down to 3, I think 3 levels of exhaustion is when disadvantage on attacks start to show up.
Yeah, not a good idea.
4 is half health, and 5 is you can't fucking move
You
anymore.
can't move, and then 6 is death.
5 is almost basically unconscious.
Yeah,
Dude, what-
like you can't move. Yeah, so if we can, we should probably try to sleep in for 2 days, recuperate.
Yeah. It's a good
Someone
idea.
should
And
just
we
say,
can-
"Oh, I'm coming down with something."
yeah. And we can spend time tomorrow working on like any kind of like mending gear, or Sophia can make potions if we have stuff for it, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nyx could mend some of our winter clothing, in case any of it got torn in our combat.
Inferior could probably find something useful to do.
Yeah, your winter
She lives
clothing
by
has
her
been
own.
taking a beating.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so you guys are going to take a long rest in this sort of tucked away space, and you're in agreement to just continue cycling bubbles until enough time passes that you can take another long rest, and then hopefully get rid of both levels of exhaustion and push on, hopefully renewed for this leg of your journey.
Basically.
Sounds like it.
All right.
Can I consult the cards to see if taking that whole extra day isn't going to be a terrible idea?
Probably
Oh,
good
actually,
idea.
I don't have the spell slots, and I'm sleeping. I don't know. I do
You
it when
can
I
do
wake
it
up from my
tomorrow morning.
watch. I can do
Yeah.
it as a ritual, so she can do it like when she's open, like on her watch.
Yeah,
There
you
you
don't
go.
need spell slots if you can ritual cast it.
Yeah, I can ritual cast divination.
Okay. Then do it when you wake up tomorrow morning or during your watch or whatever.
Not a problem. I'll pull up my reference. Yeah, this evening, shortly after the apparent demise of Mercury, seems to pass almost dreadfully without incident, or perhaps in a relief for you all, since you're all exhausted and beat the fuck up.
I like dreadfully without incident.
Ah.
Horrifically without incident.
I can't believe
Okay.
we had a peaceful night after a traumatic event. How dare you?
Like what?
Yeah, it's
We
like
need some
it's
distractions here.
yeah,
Bring on the extra trauma.
the blizzard swirling around you almost makes it like you're sort of sleeping and now almost kind of living for a day inside of like a staticky television, sort of looking out into the environment around you. Like the front half of the bubble is constantly getting filled up on the exterior with snow sort of accumulating on its outside, and it constantly needs to be pushed out and cleaned as new bubbles are popped up and the like. But the first night passes without any incident, unless there's anything anyone wants to do on their watch. Chunk, chunk, chunk,
Cards.
chunk, chunk.
Nah, Trace is sleeping.
Drink the honey mead thing. And pass the fuck out.
You definitely find some comfort in the honey wine. It goes down smooth and sweet. As on the 8th of Silion, you all would enjoy the benefits of a long rest.
Ugh.
Oh damn, I don't get my reading.
Did you cast it before or after the long rest?
During my watch, because I can do it as a ritual.
Yeah, okay. And your consulting, what's your actual question?
Well, if we're going to take the day off tomorrow, Nyx wants to get an idea as if this would be a wise decision. Would this impede us later down the line, or is this a good decision for us to take? She's cautious about delaying their travel, considering what it is they are to go up against, but she also understands that they need to regain their energy. Cards, what say you?
We did a divination for a 3-card spread, right?
Yep.
And augury for a 1-card answer? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, calling on this magic and sort of channeling it as a ritual into your deck of symbolic cards, each one with a variety of meanings, both in its upright and reversed fashions, and a good spread of them. Yeah, that works. You get the Hermit upright. And King of Wands upright. And The 7 of Pentacles upright.
Ooh. Oh.
As that is your divination. As and then yeah, your long rest proceeds without incident.
Can't remember how much a lesser gemstone is worth.
A lesser gemstone?
Yeah. Well, common gemstone, but for lesser potions. Because we have the prices in the oil rules, but it only starts at royal, which is uncommon.
Yeah, what's the common potion? Oh, lesser potion of healing?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out if I have mats I can turn into potions.
Let me see. I know I posted the gemstones 250, 750, 2500. That's royal, lucent, astral. I don't believe I assigned a value for anything below royal.
Yeah. Because royal is uncommon. I think. Maybe it's rare. These rules are sort of bits and pieces all over the place. I think it's rare, so I don't have uncommon or common prizes. No, royal is uncommon.
Yeah.
Cloudy, clear, and pristine are all common? What? What? What?
That checks out. There's probably different values for each one.
Well, I don't really have much mana, so don't worry about it right now.
Gotcha.
Where did you store the tarot card reference? Because I can't find the one for the non-major arcana cards.
It is under your character, under Pixel Tarot, under Table of Card Meanings. There we go.
Under my character, like boons or loot?
No, just under your character. Like in the journal entry place, not the actual character sheet area. Like where you'd find your boons and your items and shit. As presuming you will stay here for the day, what will you do to pass the 24 hours you need to spend here?
Mostly just copying spells from one book to the other.
I'll work on mending clothes. I assume since I've been living alone for 13 years, I can at least somewhat mend clothing.
Nyx
Passably.
is going to be mending clothes using the cantrip mending.
You know what?
Gotcha.
Nyx watches Inferior just with this needle and thread and picks up this piece of winter clothing of her own that's torn and just magics it sealed.
Inferior just kind of like looks at her, looks down at the clothing, looks at her, and then throws the clothing at her.
Oh no, if you want to help, go right ahead, be my guest.
Seems a little bit useless. Besides, your way probably makes the clothes sturdier. I can occupy myself with something else. And Inferior kind of wanders around and asks anybody if they need help with anything.
Not me. Samus is just making a bunch of snowmen trying to make the perfect likeness to Mercury.
Okay.
Aww.
Do you make them with or without wings?
Depends on how much they hold up. It's snow, so it'll probably fall apart. So if it doesn't hold up, I'll make it without wings.
It's really like sort of wet and cold snow. Very great for shaping. You could certainly try to make decently. You could certainly try to make wings. They would potentially hold up. Something you do notice, I guess, as a group, as you're sort of maybe getting together for like breakfast or what have you, is the absence of Kira.
Oh, I stole all my topazes, damn. Why does a ruby make a green potion? Weird.
You add yellow magic to it, and I only use the light color spectrum in my world. There is no pigments.
I was about to say red and yellow. Green?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes
Yeah,
sense
there's-
if you're using the light colors.
Yeah, inks don't exist. Real colors don't exist. It's only light. It's RGB only. Everything in my universe emits light.
Okay. If nobody wants help with anything, Imperia will sit and like groom and polish Ibis and polish and sharpen all of her weapons and her breastplate and generally just like care for her gear and her bird.
Yeah. Good shit. It's certainly at this point progressively sort of waterlogged, and it almost seems to appreciate a day of consistent dryness if you stay inside the bubble for most of it. As you're not constantly getting covered in snow and then having it melt inside of your comfortable little shelter over and over again.
Yep.
And Theamos, it's around just after noon or so that you're able to sort of get the, in your opinion, sort of a perfect visage of Mercury made out of snow. Nestled in just such a way that he shouldn't be blown over by the strong winds. And it is shortly after that, at about 1:18 in the afternoon or so, that you see Kira returning to the bubble.
Where is it that you ran off to?
Yeah, she passes into the bubble, and you can notice it was kind of hard to see with the snow and all of like the wind and the blizzard essentially obscuring your vision. But you notice that she is dripping wet.
Roderick Mercury's decapitated head.
Oh my god. Stop.
Did you find him?
No. I did find something for safekeeping, though. And she sort of adjusts her hand a little bit, and you catch just the slightest sort of glint of metal, catching a bit of just like a tiny little bit of the sunlight that manages to get through this blizzard. Because you guys have basically been spending the entire day in sort of dim light, this dark gray overhanging, blocking out a lot of the sunlight each day. It's very dreary and depressing on this mountain at this point.
Means harmonica.
She just seems to sort of tuck away what she's holding.
I know you will keep it safe. Who better, after all?
She just quietly takes a seat, staring out into the blizzard. I don't know if you all can feel it, but we near the source of the edict. One of the last obstacles. The Gate of the Dead. The ruins of Telemark will lay beyond it, and slightly beyond that, the necropolis itself. Brace yourselves to face whatever it is slips the grasp of Hades. Steal your minds. And death is a persistent foe.
Gate. Is that where we must pay for entry with the coin of the Dragon Lords?
No. A payment goes to Daemon of the Dragon Lords. The Sentinel of the Necropolis. Your payment at the gate is one of will.
How do you mean?
I suppose you all have proven yourselves against things that no mortal would choose to face. Perhaps it is bravery. But there is, all throughout this mountain, all along this path of the dead, a feeling of repulsion, something you have, it seems, subconsciously overcome. No one but heroes could make this trek, not after the edict. The mountain itself pushes normal people away from it. But it is different facing down the gate. It is a final test, if you will. Something that keeps the living out and the dead in.
Discomforting.
I'll prepare my magic accordingly. Do you think we'll make it there in a day of travel?
Assuming no setbacks, I believe so. I would wager perhaps by the mid to late afternoon. You'll most likely find yourselves wanting to rest your minds afterwards.
Joy.
And Nyx,
Yes.
do not think that in my grief I am without hope.
Understood.
Hope is not always a light or joyful thing. Sometimes it is grim determination. I don't suppose anyone has a bit of wood.
Oh, let's see. Soap, mirror, blanket. No, no wood, but I have flint. I have a tinderbox, flint and steel, if you're looking to start a fire.
No. I just wish. Well, for some wood to hold and to carve. This is a bleak and stony place.
I got some spare arrows. Might
that
work in a pinch.
But enough torches for the trip if you wish for one.
Either way, whichever is.
Pull out a torch from my bag, hand it over to her.
Thank you, Sophia.
That's a pretty decent chunk of wood.
There's a pretty decent chunk of wood.
Also, the oils I gave you, have you used any?
Yes, I used some. I used. Um, I am down to one oil of blight, one oil of blessing, one oil of spite, and no oil of flame heart.
I haven't used any of the oils you've given me. Should I return them to you?
No, I have enough. I cannot replace the spites, but here, as I hand you over 2 small red vials, 2 more flame hearts.
Hey, thank you, Sophia.
Indeed. And you, Nix. I meant to give this to you earlier, but honestly my mind has wavered as of late. May it be of use to you. Retrieved off of one of the hags of the trolls. Looked into its magic. It is able to influence yourself ever so slightly. A bit of luck, if nothing else. As I hand over a small stone, looks like it has like a rune carved on the side of it.
Ah, a lucky charm. How appropriate.
It is infused with magic, but you will need to attune to it, or it to connect with you.
That might be a little more difficult. No, I should be able to sort it out.
Let's say it will affect the ill luck that seems to be directed your way at times.
As when Nyx finds the time, she's going to unattune from the Horn of Balmatria and attune to this little lucky charm
There it
that she
is.
has been given.
Nothing written on there though. It's just a stone of luck. But it's basically +1 to all skill checks and saving throws, I believe.
Okay, make a note that we'll have to put
I'm
the
importing
attunement
one
option.
for you.
Ah! Look at that.
Yeah, I just held off on doing that until your quartermaster deemed it worthy of handing things out.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it. I keep remembering in between sessions and then forgetting about it again.
Yikes. Nyx is the doomed one not because of destiny, but because of forgetfulness.
How do I delete something in my inventory?
By
You click on the
right-clicking.
green lock, so you can
Yeah,
delete that. Yeah, once it's unlocked, you can right click and delete on it.
thank you.
Okay, you should have a stone of good luck, Mel. Equipped. Let's see.
I'm gonna try to update my map again, using a little bit of magic to wipe away some of that exhaustiono to just cancel it out. What'd I get? 21? Not bad. Remake my superior healing potion, give you the potion Nyx. Just the same one that I keep giving you every morning. That keeps going bad by the evening.
Which one?
Just superior healing potion.
Wonderful.
I gotta give it to you every morning, or else it'll go bad throughout the night and it won't be any good. So we gotta keep
Gotcha.
handing
So
them
I
out.
have one potion of superior healing in my inventory. I'm just going to assume that's
That's
the one until I
probably it.
use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to BRB real quick because the roleplay demanded I take lots of drinks, and that has real life consequences.
Doomed one indeed.
Inferior has several healing potions. I don't really remember if Ibis has one or not. I think though that he fed it to the werewolf queen.
That sounds right.
So yeah, so Ibis doesn't have one either. Inferior not having one is like meh, but Ibis not having one, I think Ibis should probably have one because he's our emergency bring back from the dead dude.
Here are the last of my supplies for now.
Thank you, Sophia. Ibis will have one of the.
So I hand her 2 tiny little potions.
2 little tiny potions.
Imagine if I made you keep track of like bottles. That'd suck, wouldn't it?
Dear Lord.
I got an alchemist kit. I'm just assuming there's a whole bunch of vials in there.
Infinite.
Yep. I mean, I bought most of these potions, so they just got the vials from them. Just reuse them.
Go.
Okay, hopefully that worked. Hey, it did.
What did?
I quickly programmed the Stone of Good Luck to automatically add the saving throw bonus and the ability check bonus.
Nice.
Nice.
Atreus and Thylea here. One for both of you. Will drain you a bit, but bolster you for the day ahead. Use it when you see fit. As I hand a small little blue potion to each one of them.
Little potions.
Deny.
See if Peter's around to accept it. How long will Sophia just be standing here holding out a potion?
He hit the little door thing. It says he's currently away in his defense. So hopefully he'll accept it when he comes back.
That's about it for me.
And yeah, Kira said you all should be passing into the realm of the undead here soon if that changes anything you want to do or anything like that. Time.
They must take this as well. It seemed like you already used the other one, but it seems you know its effects now. Potion of speed!
Oh shit, hasty boy.
For the rest of my dwindling supplies. I'll have one common amethyst low. I don't think I can make anything worthwhile with that. Look it up!
Use all your supplies just to get there. All right. Spending the rest of the day just sort of copying over spells and mending clothes, just trying to cover some exhaustion, spend some time relaxing, maybe polishing gear and getting things ready for the challenges ahead. As comes at the 9th of Cillian, you're all able to set out for another long rest after the 24 hours. Breaking into watches and the like. As quickly. Be right back. But you guys can. If there's any last conversations you all want to have before we press into the 9th of Cillian here into the next day, feel free to have them now.
Do we have scroll crafting rules?
I don't know.
Darkest dungeon. Tell me about scrolls. You know, there's raw rules. It doesn't look like there's different rules. Alright, 5e, what's your raw rules on making scroll?
I don't know.
Isn't like money involved or something? In time.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't think I can make any, but I'm just gonna see. Because it probably takes like 8 hours to make a level 1 scroll.
Yeah, I don't believe I have any fancy scroll crafting rules. I think there might have been a point where I was considering just stealing the Pathfinder 2e ones, because those are actually, like, usable in the field. But,
What's that? Making Paizo and WotC core rules work together?
yeah, just Frankensteining a system together to do all the things you wanted to do.
Smash them together. Make them kick.
Scribing a spell scroll. Xanatar's Guide to Everything.
Yeah, so I think you'd just be using the Xanathar rules.
Yeah, so 1 day for first level, 3 days for second level, 5 days for third. Good. Relatively cheap though.
All right. Sounds like you guys had all the talky talks you wanted to talky talk have. Let's see.
I'm gonna fuck with my spells.
We're not feeling very talkative right now, I guess. The company is still in shock.
What else is there to say? No exhaustiano.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we did another long rest. Does that night go fine?
Indeed, it seems to. It almost seems like the perception of time is hard, just because of how dark it is even during the day. So it's certainly uncomfortable in a lot of ways, but it passes without event.
Okay.
In the morning, I pull a card, and when I pull the sun card, I know it's actually daytime.
What a perfect way to keep track of that, I'm sure.
The spirits, they'll know.
They'll know.
They'll know.
Do I need emergency hut?
I don't know, this is, I'm going through my spells just like, oh fuck, what am I gonna need right now?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Into undead land.
You can't cast Animate Dead on undead, right? Like if they're just up and about.
I make
just,
you
like...
even more animated!
No.
Yeah. Can I
animate dead is
them?
not like puppet undead or something.
Yeah,
it's a whole different kind of spell.
Damn. That would have been great.
When's Peter coming back?
You actually cast fear on undead?
That was my second question.
You can't, huh? Weird.
Yeah, I mean, to cover for that, certain kinds of undead are just immune to frightened, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Okay.
true. Okay. Because a lot of those things are like charm effects, and then they do a thing. This is literally frightening.
Do you intend to scare the undead back to death?
You can definitely scare undead. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
Me? If it works, it works.
The irony.
Yes.
Or perhaps one of Lutheria's cruel jokes, rather. Could be both.
Could be. But not everything has to do with the Titans, right?
Well, when it comes to the world of Thylea, I suppose everything does have something to do with the Titans, considering they are connected to just about every fiber of existence here.
True enough, I guess.
Shatter will probably be good in ruins.
I mean, even our world is named after Titan herself. We just refer to her as the Great Mother. But
Yes.
without her, there wouldn't be necessarily the existence of nymphs like us. Without
True.
Sidon, there wouldn't be sirens.
Well, and after finding out that Sidon himself is my grandfather, it doesn't
Then there
take much
wouldn't have been
convincing.
you.
Yes. Does not take much convincing.
So if we go back to our family tree theory, does that... If nymphs are children of Thylea and you are a direct descendant of Sidon, does that somehow make you Thylea's both great granddaughter and niece? How does that work?
Say that again.
If nymphs are the children of Thylea, because we are spirits of Thylea who are given physical form to explore her wonderful world,
Mm-hmm.
that would make us her daughter already. You are a direct descendant of Sidon. You are his granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that would make you both a daughter and a great granddaughter of Thylea.
Oh, dear
Oh
goodness.
gods.
uh,
This shot just gets worse and worse every time I think about it. It just gets more expansive and ridiculous.
yes.
I enjoy it.
I'm glad you enjoy it. It stresses me out.
Oh, it's all in good fun.
Yes. Yes. I would agree.
Nyx puts away their continuously growing parchment family tree. This is like our second to redo it.
Well, it doesn't help anything that my mother was a nymph herself rather than just a tree. Hmm.
And in all sorts of technicalities, all nymphs are connected to each other in some way, shape, or form because we are all spirits. And
Oh no.
well, it's why at least on my islands, when we were emerging, even though we had different family clusters, the other nymphs that emerged at the same event were considered my sisters. So in
Yes,
one big way, we were one large family of mothers and grandmothers and aunts.
that would make sense. That would make sense. Dryads are much more solitary.
As our Oreads.
Well, it would make sense. Trees are individuals, as are mountains, but stars are all a blanket in the sky.
We turn to stardust to return to our place in the sky. Some of our songs talk about how we look down upon the world, and it is our own wish to be a part of it that grants us a physical form.
Hmm.
When a star falls, an Ore nymph is rising.
Interesting. Dryads just emerge from particularly sentient trees. We have all our hit die back.
Oh, we have all our hit die back.
The benefits of
Fully
taking a bit of time off.
Oh yes, as my cards foretold me, this was a wise decision, indeed.
You had the time to spend.
And so we spent it well.
Hey. Peter's
Great
back.
request. You receive a potion of greater respite, and I receive nothing. Alright, sounds good to me.
And Brendan's back. Perfect. Excellent. Now we can press on. As you all... Oh, god damn it, Nick!
It's okay.
I swear.
He was only gone for about 3 seconds.
Nick has like the fast pass to trolling me, I swear. He knows exactly where to hit every time. As perfect. Coming together after taking an extended long rest, if you will, finding some time to recuperate, find a way to process the events of the day, and prepare yourself for what Kira says is perhaps the final leg of your trek up this mountain. Dealing with the undead, dealing with the gate of the dead, and what lies beyond it, and what will try to stop you from even passing through it. Yes. After about an hour or so for breakfast, about 8 o'clock in the morning on the 9th of Cillian. And guess what? It's still bitter cold, and the snow continues to bombard the mountain in a persistent system. You find yourself setting out, wrapped up in mended and dried winter clothing, your snowshoes well tied to your gear, your armor polished and repaired, though with the only the travel tools on hand. Some dents and bruises, a bit harder to sort of buffer out, but thankfully you have a rather talented blacksmith with you. Not to mention the grandson of the god of the forge himself. Certainly helps. Yes.
Oh, this
Push.
little thing.
Pushing out. Once again, you're not really dealing with the sort of climb and arduous mountaineering that you had in certain sections of this journey. Crossing into that sort of misty, cold barrier initially was hard, with lots of barren cliffs and rock climbing, lots of magic being expended to aid with that. Or the traversal of the hinterlands, a warmer travel, slightly easier, less sharp inclines, but again, more upper body strength and athletics at work. No, this is simple. It's almost painfully simple. You are encapsulated in this almost perfect valley, like a channel. It would be truly unfortunate if there were to be a flood of some sort, because it would just move through this section of the mountain with frightening speed. It could be a river right through the middle of it where you're walking, but thankfully it is just snow. It is lots.
Nope, there's a flood.
Yeah, you get flushed down the drain. That's it. See you next week in Barovia. As you all push through, it is just steep and plodding. As the only thing that is being truly tested at this point is simply your endurance, your ability to hold on and keep yourselves warm and push through the thinning atmosphere and persistent cold. Thankfully, you do have the winter clothing, and trying to find places to rest as you're traveling to sort of recoup and warm up as you push forward, falling to Nyx and Infyria as usual, though it is very hard with this blizzard overhead. But both of you able to try to guide the party through their travels. Hey.
Do I have
You are
advantage?
still suffering from the disadvantage of the blizzard. Okay, so a 19 will carry it. Inferior would need to roll again, but that's all right.
Does that include my +1 already?
It certainly should.
Okay, I just don't see the math. That's why I asked.
Yeah, what's your normal bonus? 8? 5
yes.
wisdom, 3 proficiency. Yeah, and then I programmed your bonus in for you for all your skill checks, so it's a 19 because of that.
Hey, it's all working.
And Stone of Good Luck already paying off.
Ew.
As that'll grant you all some advantage. Con
Before you go,
saves.
remember, today you should be the leader. Things will go your way.
Why do you just have a fortune with you?
But also,
you don't know, do you? He bought a bulk box of fortune cookies.
but also, think about your own mistakes rather than blame the others' faults.
Oh.
Fun fact, Brendan likes buying cheap snacks in bulk. That's what you should have used for your little college introduction in the sessions. Is that your fucking box of fortune cookies? Oh my god. There's so many.
You had that. Why does it look almost empty?
Because it was 50 fortune cookies for $6. That's a deal.
Wait.
There's actually a lot of fortune cookies.
Yeah. Been eating all that for like the last week and a half.
I mean, they taste pretty okay.
It tastes good,
I
yeah.
like to.
I agree with you, Laxocatia. What is wrong with him?
What? They're cookies.
What?
You guys don't like
they're
cheap
They are
food?
good cookies.
I don't know. I never really cared for fortune cookies. As you guys have advantage with a combination of Sophia's winter clothing plus the survival victory, getting you guys some places to rest along your travel. So there's one set. Plus you can smuggle up close to Theamos.
Is it a shift for advantage or control?
Not possible. Just with this, you just have to roll it.
Oh.
Hey.
And
roll.
I'll do another set for anyone that fails on the first roll, essentially.
Getting acclimated to the weather as if her fortitude is becoming stronger. More resilient, one might say.
No, I'm banning that feat right before you take it. Get fucked. Dab. As Atreus and Theamos.
Oh,
Group entry.
join us.
I do like that it averages it too. I can tell you guys got an average of 17 right there. Yeah, so Sophia and Atreus make it. So here is the second set. I guess Nyx would make it off of Theamos' bonus, so it'd just be Theamos and Infyria with the advantage. 21, A.
Ooh.
7, so that puts you at a 17. So I think you are the only failure, Infyria. The cold biting into you, just what you wouldn't give for the old woods. The warmth, the sunshine. No, you're stuck here in this cold, dreary, stony, gray place. Truly unfortunate. As I think you get punched in the face pretty hard. Let's see.
Ow.
The snowman you guys built chases after you and punches you in the face and runs off.
Goosebumps and the abominable snowman.
Well,
No, you guys aren't in the worst part yet. My bad. Scroll up. So
17 make it.
yes, actually, that is correct.
Hey.
Yeah. Because you guys are still in the Blizzard Beats Down section. I have so many stages. I'm sorry. And I'm really tired. So
When the DM says I have so many notes for this travel, it's like, you have what?
Yeah, I broke it up into sections because it gets harder.
Okay.
Yeah, so a 17 would just barely make it. So all of you succeed
Yeah.
after this. So none of you would gain any exhaustion. That's a good thing. All of you just lose 3 hit dice in terms of your stamina. Just dealing with this and pushing on together, the 5 of you. It's exhausting, but all of you managed to power through it just through your own internal constitution and the combined efforts of your allies. Just losing 3 hit dice. Yes, where are you now?
You ever find a way of doing this without literally taking short rests?
I have I
You don't
added
have-
a resource for my hit die so that I can just change the number.
Yeah, I got
Oh.
that too. I guess I'll just do that. Okay.
I was doing it both ways.
Gold star for you. As Telemark. All right. After hours of trekking and plodding through the snow at around 5:24 in the afternoon or early evening, you start to see the valley ahead of you start to narrow slowly but surely as you continue, getting thinner and thinner, more and more mountain on the sides of it as it sort of pushes you all together, and you need to push forward as Inferior, sort of finding yourself fighting off the cold, but always on alert for possible dangers. Though Nyx is also extremely perceptive,
Yeah.
it tends to be you who seems to be always trying to make sure something doesn't sneak up on you or pounce you. So you're the first to notice ahead of
How he
you.
says pounce.
And it seems like proceeding
Forgot
every
those
so
cat
often.
tracks, okay?
You see those cat tracks bounding forward along your path ahead of you. As it seems
They
like
look more like. Sorry, continue.
yeah, looking at them, they seem to be iced over. They don't seem fresh at all. They seem like they've been sitting there just sort of depressed down into the snow, and then they just have like a solid sort of icy crunch on top of them as like maybe some sleet layered onto them or something. As it would reason to you quite quickly that it seems like in your taking an extra bit of time in your little cubby hole to rest and recuperate, it seems like your nemesis, I suppose, has preceded you, pushed further up the mountain to who knows where.
That strange feline that left tracks by our campsite is now ahead of us. Our day resting seems to have made us play a little leapfrog. The do these sets of tracks look more traditional, like cat bounding through the snow, or are they the same weird, like just like depression?
Yeah, they seem to be much more in line with what you expect. They don't seem to be like landing, so to speak, and just more like poof, leaping across the earth. You can see consistent drag marks and like obvious signs of normal sort of running through the snow, if you will.
Okay. And
But you
how
can
long
tell
does this thing
with
stride?
the yeah, that's what I was about to say. You can tell with this thing's sort of stride and its gait and the distance between these and the size of the paw print. This is a big fucking cat.
Is it bigger than the Cerberus, or about the same size, or a little bit smaller?
Give me a survival check.
Okay. Survival.
Shouldn't
Do
be
I
too
have
hard.
advantage? No.
You do have a reference point. Yeah, you have the Cerberus to compare to. You have advantage.
Sorry, that was dramatic. Is that shift or control?
Shift.
I always forget.
Yeah, think of it like shift is above control, so shift is like an up arrow.
Why is this my life?
This is just a bad
Oof.
dice night for you, darling.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, with an 11,
It's big.
it's big. You think maybe at least as hard to tell, hard to really place solidly. It could be smaller. It could just have like sort of a low center of gravity. You're not really able to determine if it just has a particularly like heavy build and is leaving these sort of larger imprints because of that, or if it's truly larger. So you think it could be large, it could be huge like the Cerberus, but you're not certain.
This thing could be as
Does
big
move
as
with
the
great speed,
Cerberus.
so that's concerning.
Yeah, this thing could be as big as the Cerberus. Maybe not quite. But it moves with great speed.
Oh, wonderful.
We need to be on our guard as we continue. Cats are known for being rather intelligent hunters.
Well, it's very advantageous that it's ahead of us now. Couldn't we send Ivers to start?
Perhaps. Not in a blizzard like this, he wouldn't get very far.
Fair.
The concern with it being ahead of us is if it loops back around. We will think it is ahead of us when really it is not. We will just have to be wary.
Not to mention, this thing seems to bear a divine spark.
Goody!
You certain of that?
It tracks with what it is we experienced above Mitros. Something escaped that day, bounding across the clouds, and now those clouds seem to have intercepted us here.
So you think that this feline is somehow connected to the storm? That is, again, discomforting.
I'm sure you all will be able to do your best if it tries to confront us.
As we always do, I guess. Well, the only thing we can do is continue and be wary.
Indeed.
So we continue. Warily.
Yeah. And as the sun is blocked off by more and more of the mountains, the dark gray really starts to set in, and it grows darker and darker. And the only thing that seems to sort of provide sort of bursts of light is a peculiar guest to your travel. Fits of lightning up above in the clouds, thunder snow, as it is more commonly known, joining you on your final few moments before your legs really start to feel sore. As looking ahead, you see something that immediately you think it must be another milestone. It is a strange sight, and it almost gives a sort of mild respite to the thunderous blizzard winds around you and the cutting frost, because now the mountains sort of close up into this finite space, unpassable on either side, it seems. Just this small opening, maybe 70 feet across, with large pillars breaking up the gap between these two mountains. A proverbial gate of sorts. Miles from the start of this journey, it is, as you grow closer and closer to it, an unsettling sight. It almost seems to grow larger as you step closer to it. Approaching these columns is hard. Not just because you're tired, but each step just reminds you of your agonizing climb to this point. Looking up at the gate itself is harder and harder the closer you get to it. You feel just this instinctual fear, this fight or flight response just beginning to trigger across you. The gaps between these pillars is a simple sight. More snow, more mountain. But looking between those gaps, looking at that objective, that point, crossing between them, it screams into your mind. Death.
Uh-huh. It was built to keep the living out and the dead in. The gate of the dead. Ooh.
Each of
That's
these
terrifying.
columns seem to have this sharp sort of line down the middle, glowing with this strange power to it. And as you look between those small gaps between them, you know the only thing that awaits you is a frigid and horrible end. The creak of bones, the gnashing of teeth, primal fears, every subconscious feeling all fires as you get closer. And then you notice it. Cutting in front of you, cutting in front of your vision, is a figure. Wrapped in white, raven black hair. Normally a interesting sort of smile, but now a much more resigned demeanor to her. Kira, with great speed, moves to these pillars in front of you. As you realize, you've stopped in front of them. Without even realizing it, you're about 15 feet away from these pillars, and it seems like almost frozen in place. As Kira turns to you, well, this is it. The gate of the dead. This edict holds back the undead beyond it, but I know its magic is seeping into your hearts. Push past it. Dig deep, heroes. And reach beyond this point. As you've seen the five in your experiences thus far call upon their divinity, call upon this innate strength to them, and it always comes with this wash of warmth and hope and just prosperity, almost a golden light that emboldens and inspires, especially at that fateful confrontation in Mitros. But now as you see Kira shine ever so slightly with that golden light, it is diminished immensely beneath the weight of this edict. There is no inspiration that reaches you, no emboldening, no warmth. She's with you, but you have to make these steps on your own. As advancing towards the gate of the dead will, at this point, require you to make a wisdom saving throw, a very hard one. But that's not truly what's important. What is important is what you feel, what you think of at this moment to push past the gate. Tell me, what allows you to walk towards death? And then give me a wisdom saving throw. You are not paralyzed or stunned or anything like that. If you want to buff each other or do anything to help each other overcome this, as you can all sort of feel it weighing on you, that's perfectly fine.
Like I said before, hope is not always light or cheery. It is sometimes grim determination. This is for Mercury. This is for all the people of Mitros that look up to us, all the people of all the cities that look up to us. This is for each other. This is for the five. This is for Thylea. I said I will fight so I will fight. Sometimes fights are not those that can be won with chakra or soul. With our hearts and with our will. Impheria holds out her arms, link elbows with those standing beside her. We pass this step together. She rolls her wisdom saving throw.
Good shit.
Hey.
You guys have like the little you guys have the little ghosties and stuff, don't you? Okay, yeah. You see the little guy that looks like a little investigator, like a little PI? You're like a die, the PI guy, like a thief, and then a ghost above your dice box there.
Yes.
Yeah, click the
Oh,
click
yeah.
the yeah, click the investigator for this wisdom save.
Going all
Oh,
Dick
sorry.
Tracy.
You're good. I didn't think about it until after the fact.
Stand in the group, standing next to Atreus. I've already seen far too much in the way of death, and I am sure I will see more. But I have resigned myself to this task long ago, and if the fear of death was the thing that would stop me, well, I wouldn't have made it this far. As she calls upon a bit of magic, the strange grayness intertwining between her fingers, as it seems she starts to place her hand on her chest, as the gray mist seems to swirl and actually spread around her, attaching onto the side of Atreus. As Atreus, you and my sights and sounds and senses start to get sharper, our minds more clear. So I'm gonna enhance some ability on us. Use a 3rd level spell.
Oh yeah.
Giving us that owl's, whatever it's called. Owl's wisdom. As I'll start stepping forward, as I got so many concentrations for that. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
Press my button. Didn't work.
Hey, you rolled it with disadvantage.
I was holding shift down. Okay, well. You can see the other number that's there.
I can. All right. What of you, Atreus?
Oh, we all like monologuing? Oh, I wasn't sure. I mean, I have like the Peter explanation, but I could definitely say it in character. Courage does not erase our fear. Courage is when we face our fear. And it is that fear that makes me bold. I march towards death, happily awaiting it. For it means that if I die in war, well, I was born in war in the first place. How fitting an end for a warrior such as I. As Atreus marches forward.
Does anybody take up on the linked arms with me?
Yeah, sure.
No.
We'll have linky arms.
I do not like ours.
No, it's okay. I'll link arms with you, Furia.
Thank you.
That's right. Sophia's not part of the Oath of Fellowship. It's in
The
character.
fellowship, yeah.
Right.
Sad but true moments.
All right. I have Atreus's and Themos and Nyx. What's you don't have to actually monologue out loud, but what, if anything, allows you to push forward into certain death?
Doesn't
The
have to be
thought,
monologue out loud.
the thought that if we don't do this, Mercury would have died for nothing.
Oh. Point enough. And last but not least, the doomed one.
From her belt, she pulls off this detached spearhead, the base of which is wrapped in a leather. It's something that she had from her mother, a keepsake. And she holds it close to her chest and she remembers her mom's parting words. Be strong, my star. You're going to be okay. She casts guidance upon herself as she believes those words, places her lips upon her mother's spear like a kiss upon her forehead as they departed, and steps forward, linking an arm with Inferia's.
Guidance doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
No, it's ability checks. You have to use like
Oh.
less.
Gotta use resistance.
Oh, you know what? That's
That
fine.
spell nobody ever takes.
Oh, these are saves. That's what it is. Whatever. I meant
There
to
is a
cast
spell for
guidance. Whatever. I don't have it prepped. It's fine.
Well, nobody ever does. It's a cantrip that nobody ever takes.
Interesting. Theos, do you also link arms with the group of your allies, or do you march solo like Sophia?
Nah, fuck them.
I pick Sophia up.
Picks up the small
Okay.
lizard.
All right, I have the narration for this. Perfect. This lines up excellently. So Atreus, Inferia, and Nyx, I believe, are a sort of line segment or group sort of held together. Inferia in the middle, one arm around, interlocked with Atreus, the other with Nyx, as the three of you step forward and feel that in like the very first step, it's like a gust of wind blows right into your face, but you don't even feel it on your skin. You just feel it like it's trying to blow through you. It's almost impossible for me to really describe, but I guess the closest sensation I can think of is if you've ever experienced perhaps maybe a concert or like a true IMAX cinema, that feeling of when that bass pushes into your chest and you can feel it inside of yourself, almost trying to push you into the seat. It's that same sort of sensation, like something is physically reaching into you and shoving you away from this place. And you step forward against that force, emboldened with your own internal drive. You can see yourself almost reaching the other side of it, each step defiant and resolute against this force. The screams of horror and death that seem to just start washing over your mind, the sounds of battle, clanging of blades and steel, something that most of you have become quite accustomed to, reverberates in your mind, some of you even thriving in that place. This is a turning point for you, in your own personal odysseys, to be sure. Kara stretches out a hand to you if you want to take it, but you quickly find yourself next to the pillars, and then in a few short moments beyond them. As Theos and Sophia, you see your allies step forward, and you step forward with them, though not interlocked. Your first step, emboldened, you find your core ideals, hold on to them, and let them push you forward. But the next step wavers. You can't help but look at the pillars. They seem taller now. It's like they're gonna scrape against the sky itself. It almost seems to be bending down towards you. Your vision finds itself going a bit out of focus. Your legs buckle underneath your weight. You struggle. But each moment, you get a little bit further, clawing against the snow through just determination. Sophia, you find yourself with that roll almost finding yourself face first in the snow, managing to catch yourself, only depositing perhaps a hand into it, and you feel a strong arm against your back as Theamos, pushing against this strange force as well, tries to lift you up out of the snow, and with his immense strength easily succeeds against your lithe self as the two of you push forward, plodding through it, and manage to reach the pillars as well. Though it takes you longer, you can feel each and every moment much more excruciating. But you reach it. Bit by harrowing bit, even you manage to cross through. Your heroism, whether you accept it or not, is something that seems to be growing inside of you in a way that the world itself is just starting to bend to. As Kira looks at you all as you cross through, you see Atreus and Inferior and Nyx. Each of you feel like as you three push through, even with your success, you feel like you just ran a marathon. Like if it wasn't so cold, perhaps you would be covered or drenched in sweat, and the two of you much the same. It is exhausting getting through this, but you've done it. And Kira looks at you with a face of actual just satisfaction. Like something that she has perhaps divine enough wisdom to doubt has been confirmed against those very small doubts. And you're able to push forward. Recouping and catching your breath after maybe only 5 minutes. Once again, you're in the blizzard, though now getting each step further and further away from this gate of the dead. That feeling leaving you, no more hearing things that you cannot see, no more strange sounds at the edges of your vision. There is work to be done, a challenge to be met. But you'll get to that tomorrow. God, it is exhausting. As it is getting on now about 6 p.m. in the afternoon, and you are burning daylight quickly. The sun setting beyond the mountains, and it's getting harder and harder to find shelter. But your little valley here quickly widens back out. You find the path. It does not branch into many others like it did before. The path of the dead is solidly one direction, and you follow it. After a hard-fought and stressful day, you push on just a bit further into the evening, following this singular, almost carved path. As Inferior, now that you're sort of able to find yourself again and get centered with what it is you're looking for, Nyx, you're trying to find shelter, but Inferior, you do catch just the ever signs of what feel like almost sort of worked stone beneath your feet at certain points. Just a bit of an evenness to the earth that is not unsettling, but definitely abnormal. The mountain shouldn't really feel like this, but then it all sort of clicks together. People used to live here. A decent number of them. The city, quote unquote, of Tillamook used to stretch through this section of the mountain. And you see just ever so slightly the signs of, at this point, almost ancient life. Trees that have been cleared out and never really brought back together. This edict keeping things as they should be, even it seems on the other side of it. But eventually all of that falls away. The dark gray light of day leaves, and now you are just surrounded by this unsettling cold night. You can't really see rocks or snow or trees. It is now, just after a certain point, pitch black. A void. And you're fucking tired. You've gone far enough as you find yourself here. The only sounds joining you are the whistling of wind and this slow sort of crunching, like a grinding or scraping of ice against ice. Though you are not standing on it this time, it seems to be perhaps just out of sight, but you can hear it moving nearby. This sort of slurry that cracks and snaps as pieces move against one another.
It's not
Yeah.
ominous. What?
My bad. I forgot to put your little doodah on here that lets you see where to put yourself.
The darkness.
The darkness. Yeah, your party marker.
Gaze upon the void. Ah!
Everything broken.
Void, come back!
Everything. Oh, there we go.
I'm in a gray void. Oh, it's loading. Oh, here we go.
I see Theamos, but then I also don't see Theamos. That's weird.
That's weird.
Can't move myself.
Oh, we're all gone. Wait, what's happening?
Nyx has her lantern on.
I just see a white bubble in a black void now. I can't see any of our characters. I'm having a good time.
I can move myself with the arrow keys, but I can't drag my token around.
Oh, dear goodness.
Everything breaks.
I can move Atreus around.
It looks like everyone's here, so let me just do one of these. Okay, everyone's over here, and I'll move us all back. Okay, I should hopefully fix that. And everyone's seen now. Does everyone exist?
I exist.
Can you delete me so I can put another one down? Because I still can't move myself.
No problem. Good.
Still cannot move myself. I can arrow key myself, but I can't move with the mouse.
Try now.
Oh, that was not me.
Yeah, I know.
Like I can highlight my ball, sorta, and I can move with the arrow keys, but I can't just like pick up my token and move it.
Try reloading, because I remember that happened to me, but I don't remember how I fixed it.
Okay. I've got like a weird, just like blank gray ball. Oh god!
What?
It's always.
It's just like I logged out and it's the front page and it's just a spam of "you must log in order to access this game." Let me let's just close it all out. Let's just try again.
There we go.
I know I must log in to access this game. I'm aware.
Try.
Weirdly log me out? Huh. Okay, come back in.
There we go. Yeah. as you guys reach this point towards what is like an early night now, the blizzard bringing darkness much earlier than it should be here. You hear the slow slosh of an icy slurry, cracks and snaps as pieces move against one another, propelled by an unseen current underneath. You can see ahead of you a very, very thick and heavy looking rope bridge. And as you can see, the wind sort of push against it and sort of move and rustle the trees. You notice the bridge itself barely seems to move in comparison to the wind. It looks sturdy, and it looks like it has like a sort of thick layer of ice over top of it as well. But it is at this point that you feel your legs just about to run out of steam.
Should probably try the bridge in the morning. We can set up a bubble between these trees. Varia gestures to the right of the path.
Agreed. Off the path, just in case our little friend decides to pay a visit tonight.
Little.
Hey, use the thing. Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, I did. For light.
Let there be light.
You did the light bulb for lantern. I'm so proud of you.
I did. I hit the right button.
The other side of the path a better idea. Did I just like randomly gesture to the wrong place? Oh, it's dark. It's over here.
I'm just gonna have Nyx like walk to like the foot of the bridge to see if her lantern can see across it, but nope, it's all dark. It's all very dark.
You can see a bit across it. If I'm looking at your vision here.
Oh, I can see up to this point. This is the edge of my vision here. It's still bridge. And like barely cliff.
That looks like a circle.
In the middle of the path.
I yell at everybody to come gather around as my stuff starts to come to completion about 10 minutes later. Is there stuff that happens before that?
Look, Inferior, we got a tree in this time.
Inferior shelters in the tree.
Inferior
She
hugs
becomes
it.
one with the tree.
Yes, hugs the trunk and becomes one. Flush to tree.
There we go. That should be more accurate. I forgot that I needed to have a global illumination, but you should be able to see further, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, only able to see in color where Nyx carries her light. But
I see how it is.
let me see. Can Atreya see that far? Yeah.
When the hooded lantern is like hooded, it's like light for a torch, right? Like torch distant light. Or is it less?
I
Just
believe so.
Okay, making sure.
Yes, you guys are easily able to make camp on this side of the bridge. Not a problem. As you guys get up to anything in the early section of the evening.
No, Nyx just sits up against this tree, or it looks like a bush, and she just keeps holding the spearhead in her hand, just letting it move between hands now that she's just started thinking about her mom's.
Yeah.
Imperial legit hugs the tree. She tries to see if it has any life in it, the way that the trees on the other side of the edict did not have.
You get a cold and discomforting silence.
No.
No life for you.
She just kind of rests her forehead against the trunk and deflates. Stands there for a while. Moping.
Excellent.
Nyx just looks over at Infuriate and just a small smile, soft chuckle.
I'm glad that you are amused by my discomfort.
Oh, sweet innocent youngling. So pure.
As if.
Oh, I know. One can dream.
I guess. Eventually, Imperious sighs and turns around and slides down, so she's sitting on the ground with her back against the tree. Divus abandons his perch in this bush to come sit on her knee.
I'm going to start my work now, but it will take a bit. I'll take first watch.
Very well, I'll take second then.
I'll go ahead and take third.
You can wake me for fourth.
Atreus gets his full 8 hours again, catching up on that sleep.
Hey,
Let's go.
Hey.
remember to be watchful for whatever that beast is.
My second book is almost done.
I hope I don't give you another spell book. You're gonna be copying again.
All Sophia does is plagiarize.
Herself? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
It's called self IP theft, and it's a very serious problem in the art community.
Oh my god, no one cares. So first watch is Inferior. Or not Inferior. Sorry, Nyx. God, Jesus, I told you I didn't get enough sleep. Fucking
what are you fuckers? I don't know.
I'm running on battery power, guys. Is Sophia and Kira. Kira's still awake and seeing you sort of work at your process and continue to sort of copy down notes. You notice the scribble of your own quill is matched by the scribble of hers. No light in this bubble at this point. No fire built. Sophia able to utilize your sort of Stygian gifts and see into this low light area. You enhancing your ability for int.
Yeah. As I get around to fucking updating my map.
All right, giving yourself some advantage.
Looks like it. Okay.
I don't think it's a save. It's not a save. Is it?
It's the same way. I have no button for tools, so I just use save.
Ah, okay, because you're proficient. That's right.
Yeah.
Swiggity sweetie. As Kira saddles up next to you, you can see the scroll sort of floating to her right. I have I've been meaning to inquire, Sophia Acromaticos. I know little of your family beyond their name. You all have never, it seems, favored the public eye and attention.
We attempt to teach to those who will listen. Very few wish to listen.
The cynicism of Valis. But you do not find yourself placing your faith in the five, so I have heard.
No. I believe that you and the others certainly see the world in a different way than mortals. But not enough. Not meaningfully enough to safe harbor us. You are shepherds, but your flock is not entirely safe. And sometimes the sheep need to fight for themselves.
A philosophy not, well, not fostered in isolation. It was the idea, so long ago, when the Oath of Peace was signed, the five would help the sheep be better. And in some ways, she sort of gestures towards your, presumably brewing or stewing alchemical supplies. In some ways, we succeeded, and in others, I fear we have failed. It's the only reason I can think that Versi has seen just a select group of heroes standing up to the Titans, as opposed to all mortals. That was the goal. Even if we were no longer here, mortals would be able to hold their own against their former oppressors. But if you don't find your faith in the five, and certainly not in the Titans, at least hopefully not anymore, you cannot tell me you simply believe in yourself to such a degree.
No. As I said, I know that you see the world in a different way. And there are others that see it the same. Different colors, different lines, different calculations. My ancestors found such a being. We call her the Pale Moon Moth. She is something born of your sister, although she does not know our patron. She is a creature that lives possibly outside of Thylea, but still part of it. She is our teacher, our guide. Not infallible, but still wise. She has brought my family to fortune and success, so that we would see the wisdom in her teachings. We wish to share them, but too many may sound like madness, for they doubt the rule of the five.
Perhaps they doubt what they cannot see.
They doubt what we can see.
If everything goes according to plan, I anticipate the great debates being very interesting with your participation this time around.
I'll do what I can. It will be useful, so I will attend. My family has grown accustomed to defending our standing point. What we believe. Much of it must rely on logic, or else, well, there is no teaching otherwise.
Hmm. It is true, anecdotes are not enough. Though it is interesting. Stories, myths, legends. These are things that are not bound in the sciences. Things that my sister, in all of her wisdom and knowledge, struggles to grasp with, or grapple with, rather. There's a power to the spoken word, a power to things unseen but only heard of, spoken of in whispers, given form through thought. Did you know that both the Titans and the Five are empowered by belief? Their domains given tribute at festival, or in celebration, or as famously with Lutheria, in every libation.
So the theory says. To confirm it's true, it is to expose a weakness, but not one that is dire, I suppose.
Not unless you can convince the entire world to forget about a god. Though that would be quite the dire threat, wouldn't it?
Agreed.
But you have seen it, if you paid attention, philosopher. Symbols strewn into the stone, with no known meaning.
Markings with their uses long since past. Yes, I have.
There have been things lost to myth and legend from the Geigans, a civilization that does not truly exist, that have no attribution. They do not belong to us. They were here before us. But there are only two Titans actively given worship. Kintamane, in his chaotic power, seems to travel the world, protecting it, but no demands of worship from the Hundred-Handed One. It is only Sidon and Lutheria. But I have found myself curious if it has only been Sidon and Lutheria. I wonder then if your pale moon moth is, as you say, a spawn of my sister, or perhaps something else. Something lost.
Else indeed.
Something almost forgotten, save for the Achromaticos family. Just
we
a
have
thought.
always questioned her. But she was found by my ancestor long ago. I don't know if others knew of her back then. She may have been the first. But just as you mentioned, Cantamane still exists. And his power is that to rupture mountains, to bend this entire land, and yet no one worships him. So, yes, faith gives you strength, but it's not to say it's the only place where that strength can come from.
This is true. Or perhaps it isn't. That's the only thing I don't particularly care for when it comes to these thoughts on philosophy. It's so hard to pin anything down. Perhaps there are cults, other families like yourself that worship this titan of chaos. But there are no temples. Who's to say? I appreciate you letting me pick at your mind a bit.
You're welcome. And maybe, if you can hear from something that truly does know the answers, sees the world as it truly is, maybe you too will understand the meaning behind philosophy and the questions that cannot be answered.
Perhaps. Perhaps. I take away your laurel and I give you a new one.
Getting
Fresh
rid of all these
laurels.
stale laurels.
Yeah,
Yep.
stale laurels. You know these moldy laurels? Get out of here. Unless there's anything you want to do, your rest comes and goes, or watch rather.
So I go to Railsnix. Wake her up. Nothing
I
of
think it should be
notice so far.
Theamos.
Wait. Oh, I thought it was me.
Yeah, I thought it was
Inferior then.
gestures vaguely.
Whoa, people! I wake them up.
Wake up,
Wake
Eos.
them all up.
Eos takes a solo watch. He's the bestest of boys. He'll get the bad guys.
Wake up, Inferior. Tell her that I didn't see nothing.
Very good. Get
Oh my
some
god.
rest. What?
Just Nick
Oh.
yeeting himself into the river.
Yeet! Very good. Get some rest. And Inferior stands up and walks around a little bit. Shakes herself out, wakes up.
Stretch your leggies.
Stretches her leggies.
All right. Ivis chirps in a sort of positive tone to ask to sort of take a roundabout sort of trip through this sort of area, this nestled river space. Take a look and see what he can see, if that's all right with you.
As you're careful, I don't want you to get lost in the blizzard.
Gives
The
a
one
chirp
being
saying
that
he'll-
Inferior is like stupidly protective of is Ibis.
Yeah, he says he'll stay close. You can just barely sort of hear the sort of shift and shake of his metal form, just barely outside of your sight, except for when he sort of dips down and is a bit more visible, and just seems to almost just sort of stretch his leggies or wingies himself
Okay.
a little bit.
Armsies.
Armsies. Cool.
He returns after about 15, 20 minutes or so, saying nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. It seems to be rather blasé.
Awesome. Well, good. Every once in a while, Inferior will get up and kind of walk around the bubble. And if Ibis, wants to, he'll do another little loop around outside every 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But if nothing happens, then nothing happens.
Until, towards the end of your watch, you notice a sort of shift in the lighting around you. This pitch black darkness that seems to be sort of filling up everything that's outside of your immediate vision is broken up a bit by a soft, pale, bluish, greenish hue that seems to sort of shimmer and waft itself through the clouds. Again, that sort of almost iridescent aurora-like view that you had a few days ago now of that strange sort of pillar of light that burst up into the sky and seemed to sort of shift the light all around it in the sky. You notice now a small amount of that same sort of discoloration, bright and sort of mystical, dancing up in the dark sky above you. A sharp contrast to its absence of light.
Interesting. Inferior clocks it and keeps an eye on it, but doesn't wake anybody up.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to do anything. You don't hear any strange noises or sudden shifts of movement or anything like that. But it is an interesting sort of change in the atmosphere.
Phenomena.
Indeed. As second watch comes to an end.
Inferior wakes up Thamos. It was a quiet watch, not much, though that light is back in the sky.
Yeah, Theamos seems relatively quiet. Same sort of wind and blizzard, though you notice over the course of your watch that little light in the cloud seemed to build bit by bit. Just seemed to be a bit more persistent, a bit more encompassing. But nothing really seems to change. Do you do anything during your watch?
What does the river look like? Is it like frozen over?
I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, where do you go to look at it specifically? It's important. Ooh, right there. Excellent. All right.
Hop in.
Give me a relatively easy perception check. Let's see if you notice something in particular. Holy ravioli with a nat 20. Yeah, so looking down at the river, right, it's getting a little bit easier to see even without like Nyx's lantern and the like, because of this sort of iridescent glow up above you. It almost looks kind of hypnotizing in a way, this strange sort of shimmer, and it casts a bit of light here and there onto the river and onto the ground, but it's fleeting at best. So like there's no like nothing to update or lights to put onto the map. But you look down at the river as the light sort of passes over it, and you see this. It looks like almost like powdered or like an unflavored or undyed slushy. Like it literally just looks like churned up white sort of wet ice that is chunky and just sort of moving like at this snail's pace, like crawling. And you can notice like on the sides and on the edge, it seems to sort of freeze like for a moment before like quickly thawing and then sort of chunking down further. It's a strange sort of phenomenon to witness that you're not super sure what it is you're looking at, but you do see just this sort of icy slurry crawl down this river path here. I'm not super sure if really this normally would be here, though you're not really an expert on mountainous terrains, but it seems to be perhaps a result of just the persistent snowfall and the natural order of things as it melts and runs through this would probably be just a valley or small canyon if it weren't for this persistent weather. But that's not the most startling thing. Something catches your eye. First you hear it, and then you see it. This this soft sort of creak, hard and heavy, of the wood to your left. Nothing seems to be on the bridge. You quickly look over. You don't see anything on top of it. Some light shines down for a moment, and yeah, there's nothing there. But as that light shimmers a little bit further downriver, you realize what it is you're seeing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bodies swinging from thick rope creak below the bridge. Swaying in this persistent wind. And looking at these, you see them swing. And as you sort of try to focus in to see, like, is this an illusion? Are these old? Are these fresh? You find yourself transfixed almost for a moment at the middle one, and then with a snap, you swear it looks at you. And you blink almost perhaps in surprise, or maybe just in trying to ready yourself, and look again, and there's nothing.
No, I think it's time to go back to bed. Just gotta walk on over here.
Sliding back home.
So I was gonna go fishing, but you know, pretty sure there's no fish in this slushy. So I'll stay here within the confines of the bubble for the rest of my watch, and then wake up Nyx for the next watch.
Yep, it's Nyx.
Hey Nyx, it's mostly fine. Quick suggestion: don't look under the bridge.
We have to cross the bridge in the morning, right?
Let's just not do that. Let's swim. Actually, maybe that's worse.
Remember the last time we tried to cross a river without a bridge?
Yeah, but I mean, this bridge is like mostly ice.
That's not a better example. We literally tried to cross ice.
Actually, Nyx, you're smarter than me, especially with that thing. So actually, maybe go look under the bridge. Maybe you could figure out what the fuck I saw.
Well, I don't... Sure. You're not even going to try to describe it to me. You're going to let me go off.
Do you want me to, or do you want it to be a surprise?
It's got this box I want you to open.
Hoplon, as her shield animates before her, and she trudges off.
Maybe don't keep your light on. Here, you know what? I'm just going to tell you. I saw like dead bodies hanging underneath the bridge, and then like it looked like one of them looked at me, and then I blinked, and then they were gone.
The
So I don't
body's
know.
gone.
Yeah, they were gone. Not like they like dropped or anything. They just like disappeared. So
Nyx closes her lantern, sits down against a tree. Nope, we will investigate that in the morning. I'm not going to do that on my own.
that's fine.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna go.
Unnerved.
Does anybody else hear the creepy ass sound?
Belle's hand's shaking. She can't even hold on to her cup anymore.
I dropped my pen and my coaster.
Anybody else?
As you all are having this back and forth, Nyx and Theos having just this sort of rapport, it seems, over many a watch and private conversation, a sort of banter, if you will. You dismiss this sort of shift in the atmosphere around you. You notice, Nyx, this unsettling glow up to the sky But you're trying to get the information from Theamos. You hear the whistle of the wind and you dismiss it. It doesn't catch your attention, but it is after you close and drop your lantern and the darkness comes back to you and you see this sort of glow encroaching on the edges of your vision, just where the clouds meet the rocks, just beyond the trees. This bright bluish green hue shimmering greater and greater. That isn't the wind. The wind has fallen away. The snow drifts ominously just in your vision. But the wails of the dead grow louder and louder. Circling around you, it seems just out of sight. You can feel this chill down your spine, something you have not felt since a horrific nightmare. The air is cold, but not because of the blizzard. It seems as though a shift has taken place. The presence of the cold and desolate realm of Hades, that with which the spirits wander, has made itself uncomfortably close to you. You find yourself looking out of the bubble, trying to see if anything is coming, if anything is getting closer. And you see, past the bridge, this strange glow building up and cresting over a small rock, breaking between the trees. Blue and white, it appears for only a moment, this horrific, gaping visage. Yes?
They must wake everyone up.
I start throwing snow at people.
Cold snow greets all of you in short order as Nyx, you can see to your direct sort of northeast, this weird, it looks like almost like fire. It is bright green and blue, and it seems to ripple in the wind. And looking at it, you can see what looks like a large skull or face or visage, these gaping, glowing eye sockets, a maw that screams and calls to the void. It is a strange sight that seems to be comprised of many other faces. As each of you are coming to and being awakened, you can all hear this strange sound, see the growing glow. As you see up to the northeast, this strange entity come into being off in the distance. A horrific looking blue skull that seems to be comprised of, it looks like spirits or wraiths or something itself, just made up of a mound of them. As it almost seems to call out towards you, floating ominously in the distance, moving slowly, but in this strange sort of back and forth pattern towards the bridge.
And that's one fearsome dude. Pretty spooky.
What's happening?
Hope there isn't a lot of them.
I see something on the other side of the bridge. It's approaching. Brace yourselves.
Shouldn't leave the bubble.
Just watch. Not concentrating on anything. Stop it.
You can see it sort of cross across this open space, shedding just a little bit of light as it moves. I can use this to sort of represent that. This sort of eerie, sort of warbling light seems to sort of shimmer off of it as it moves across. It does not seem to pay notice to you at the moment. It's just this floating skull comprised of all these other bodies just floats across up into the rock. and then disappears from sight, almost as quickly as it appeared.
Did anyone else see that? Please
Yeah.
tell me somebody else saw that.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I think we all did.
Maybe it didn't see us because of the bubble, so we might be safe if we stay.
Did anyone leave the bubble before it came?
Points at Theamos.
Maybe.
Oh, there it is again. Or well, there's light at least.
Indeed, as you can see, you can see like just sort of like forcing its way out of this sort of rip through the stone, the light pouring up from it seems like the river, sort of shedding out onto the stone nearby, but unable to be seen, this thing seemingly floating across the river.
Perhaps it is something that comes out at night in these parts when it senses intruders, and maybe it cannot sense us within the bubble. Perhaps we should, from now on, not leave the bubble at night, maybe. But it didn't come out after Ibis went out of the bubble. But
I
Ibis
mean-
is a construct.
It also, Iris kind of just looks like a bird from a distance. So what happened was I didn't go over the bridge. I went to point out to where I was near the bridge. I was just trying to look at the water.
Yeah.
I saw dead bodies just kind of hanging out under the bridge, having a good time, I guess. And then one of them kind of looked at me and then they all disappeared.
Guardians of the bridge, maybe. We'll need to keep a weather eye out for the rest of the night and into the morning.
I guess we should I think we're safe here, so we should just try to go back to sleep. Atreus, I know you're here to get your good night's rest, but do you think you could stay up with Nyx? Just in case?
That's probably wise.
Very well.
As Nyx, give me a relatively hard religion check.
Ooh.
17. The the connection to undeath and the spirits is something that you are familiar with for sure, though the exact knowledge seems to be escaping you at the moment. But there is a school of thought, a connection to, it seems like on a basic level, the passage of time, the relation of positions and places, and that thinning of the border between what it is we experience on the material plane and the things that seem to flit just outside of our periphery. There comes a time at night in just the worst, most desecrated places where things are able to slip into being, though the specifics seem to escape you. And just as you sort of have this sort of realization, you hear to your left, down the path that you took to get to this point, this sort of rhythmic stepping, crunching of snow and ice. It does not sound heavy per se. It doesn't sound like a large beast or like something that has pursued you like the gray turned red friend of yours that you exploded into blood. Sounds like marching. Footsteps. Soldiers. You can see that shimmer of blue and green off in the distance, and you don't see figures in it, but that sound gets closer and closer. The sound of marching troops. A spirit so connected to death and agony as to be so quickly corrupted. Nothing more than those that die in battle and cannot find peace. And
So, hearing this just quietly to Atreus, since he's now joined me, I wonder if the many that have crossed through here, if any of them tried to give these spirits their final rest.
How would you go about that?
Coin for the ferrymen, if they're of settler ancestry, and then a prayer to the five to see that they find their way across properly.
To the spirit.
Do you know why it is that we place the coins upon the eyelids of those who have passed?
Oh, I mean, this Trace like strokes his beard. Don't you need to put it on a dead body? Wouldn't we have to find their body?
you know that to be true.
Perhaps that's the real tragedy. At this point, nothing can be done for them.
You do know that you can exercise them. You can essentially destroy them, and it helps save others. But the tragedy would be more so that they cannot be saved.
Yes. That is what Nyx is referring to.
Mm-hmm. As you find yourselves in this sense of reflection, that marching grows louder and closer and closer. And now, looking again to your left, some of you trying to perhaps try to get some rest, that echoing sound reverberates in your ears in such a way as to disturb your rest. As you see shapes moving through the mist and the snow. Almost, it seems, wreathed in this same sort of bluish green light. Shielded and bound, it seems, in a strange wrought iron polished to a bright shine. And their body almost seems aflame. Wisps of this energy wafting in the wind. Spirits marching. Weapons at their side in a strange, almost truly unsettling fashion. As just a group of them sort of come into vision to your immediate left.
Terrifying.
All letting off that strange sort of warbling light. And looking at their faces, they seem gaunt and like skulls, their mouths sharpened fangs, and you can see and hear the rattling and change of chains on their bodies, like bound phantoms, as they march past your bubble. It seems like you go unnoticed. But then the formation seems to change. 5 move forward, and 1 does not. Clear the image, Mel. 1 remains, and it moves towards the edge of your bubble. It looks with these strange, empty eyes at what you hope is nothing. Its exterior opaque to all those who cannot enter it. But Atreus, you swear the spirit is looking right at you. And shortly, after about another step, the other 5, and then halt. The wailing begins to build up a bit more, and you can see more light shedding itself from the river. As something seems to be moving, spawning itself back into being and wafting through the air. Rising up out of the river, back up by the bridge now, seeming to sort of rise up like a floating ghost. As it moves towards you.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Pull a skull out from underneath my cloak. Start to cast a short little spell.
The spiritual warriors seem to sort of move to other sides of this strange bubble. The one in front of you, Atreus, seemingly to still lock its empty eye sockets with you. As you can see it sort of reach down to its left, flames building along its arms, this body covered in spirits, or covered in the strange spiritual energy, as it brings out a large Xephos in its hands. Wreathed with blue and green fire. What's up, Nyx?
Yeah, this does not look safe, so I'm going to start throwing snow at everyone.
What? They can't get through the bubble? Max.
Yeah, I start kicking snow on everyone.
Furia gets up and
What are you
readies her
doing?
shot. What?
As my ghoulie chica comes into form.
Oh.
Unless they can strip away the magic itself.
It is their movements that have me the most concerned.
Only 2 of you. Both the wrong chicas.
They were passing, and then they turned back to where we are.
Hey! Hey!
And then that appeared. Nyx tilts her lantern holster staff towards the floating head of faces.
Even if they can't get to us inside the bubble, what if they just wait until the bubble drops?
As you all are discussing, you see more and more of this ominous light building in the distance. You hear more and more footsteps, though the sharper-eared of you can sort of ascertain the direction. The 6 in front of you seem to have just stopped in front of the bubble, each of them bringing up their swords, each of them wreathing in this light and holding them at their sides, almost in this position as to make a shieldless phalanx, a position that is not ideal for a lot of hoplites, but it is a stance that is something you are familiar with seeing. It seems like these spirits have some retention of their martial prowess or training, and you hear more footsteps marching to the north of the bridge, seemingly headed this way. To your northeast, cresting over a rocky ridge, you see another one of these large gaping skulls seeming to spawn into being, this light wreathing it, this strange ethereal fire wrapping around it.
They can strip the magic, then be prepared to strike first.
Can't we just strike through the bubble?
You can.
And each
We
of
can
them
strike.
seem to hold their swords at the ready to their sides.
We can strike through the bubble, but they can't.
They cannot.
Interesting.
Alright then.
We should
Do
probably
you
hold
want
off
to-
until they do.
Magic will not.
Replenish your magic. Isn't the bubble about to fall down?
I can force it to fall, but only if I leave. It should remain for another few hours, if not tampered with.
Then we should leave it, unless they can strike us
You can
through it.
see the skull in front of the bridge open its mouth a little bit wider. It always seems to be in this constant, stretched open, sort of yelling position. But in front of its mouth, this orb of blue and green fire seems to be forming in front of it, growing larger and larger, as it seems to be obviously readying itself for something. Go ahead.
Nyx steps forward, gets to Atreus' side, and she's going to tap into a little channel divinity and turn undead.
Your magic will
Hey.
not reach through the bubble, like I was
Ah.
trying to say before all the narration took place.
He did say that. You can recant if you'd like.
You did say that.
I would recant, but is it considered magic? I think it's considered magic for this.
Be weird if it wasn't.
I don't know. It's faith, religion, or whatever.
I'm fairly certain Channel Divinity, the actual feature, calls it out as a magical effect or something to that effect.
Mhm.
Yeah, to fuel magical effects, which is the
yeah.
claimer.
Then yeah, I retract that action.
You can see as this thing seems to be forming this orb in front of it, another glow seems to spawn into being on the farthest mountain to your far right. So this one seems to be taking longer to sort of bring itself together. And again, those footsteps get louder and louder as I need you all to add yourselves to the encounter tracker.
Imperial readies her chakrams. Which one is the combat check?
Damn, that's crazy.
The swords.
I know the pictures weren't popping up. It just the one on the bottom, the one on top. But they did eventually.
Oh no, I have him at -30. He's floating. He's up. There we go.
Oh, that was sad. Guys, the dice don't like me today.
Oh no, that's awful.
John.
Look at John in the chat.
I know,
Mock-
right?
An insult!
Yes.
Before this fight, remember, there's absolutely no substitute for a genuine lack of preparation!
Oh, my shield's
You
up.
lost me.
It happened to be what was on the fortune cookie.
Oh god damn it!
God damn it.
Wait, yours actually come with fortunes?
Yeah,
You didn't just get like a bunch of cookies?
I was not expecting fortune, but I got fortunes.
Oh, I mean, you got fortune cookies. See, maybe that was why it's also like $6. Maybe it'd be cheaper if you just got the cookie.
Yeah, that's why I thought
You
it was
have
gonna
to-
be cheap, but no, it comes with fortunes.
All right.
Then find the fortuneless kind so you can get them cheaper, so you don't have to pay for strips of paper with a bunch of ink on them. That's expensive.
perception checks from everyone.
Perception.
Perception.
So perceptive, you guys.
God.
Nix and Inferior, always my dependables. Yeah, Sophia, Theamos,
We're just staring into each other's eyes.
and Atreus. Atreus seemingly the taking the vanguard position, it seems, seeming to ready himself for what seems to be this onslaught, though you are quite well rounded, at least in this moment, Atreus, as you also notice those footsteps seemingly to consistently get louder, and then you notice to your further north east that glow seeming to start to come into being as you see rows of soldiers, not a great number of them, but enough to be a challenge for sure, seeming to spawn into being on the other side of the bridge, marching towards you. As Nyx and Inferior, you also notice this. At the same time, you see these other strange sort of spiritual soldiers come into being. But Sophia and Theamos, you are locked in on what's in front of you, and you see these flaming swords held at the ready, wreathed in this spiritual fire. You can see these strange sort of entities building up in fire on themselves, as each of them in unison seem to bring forth their swords to their sides and try to plunge them into the bubble. 6 of them, these strange sort of spear-like sword points plunging into the bubble and stressing against it. As Sophia, you can see your magic holding against this weird blow, and then one of these spirits vanishes, and with it a burst of flame, and it seems to surge in these strange lines across your bubble, and the other 5 follow, each of them blowing up, it seems, and channeling all of this strange necrotic malice into your bubble. And with the 6 of them all sacrificing themselves, your bubble dissipates, and that orb of fire generated in front of this strange skull surges forth quickly after. As that radiant fireball goes off, and that is where we are going to end tonight's session.
Oh my god!
As these dudes die.
Wait, you took Atreus with?
Ah, I killed Atreus. Fuck yeah. I think I can just control. I think I can just. Oh, God, don't say that. That hurts.
Chucky.
I know, but you know I'm fragile. My bones are made of glass and my skin is made of paper.
You should drink more milk.
I drink so much.
Or you drink too much.
I can't control Z. I thought I could bring back Atreus, but I can't. I'm sorry.
That's right. I'll stay forever.
Bye.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Nyx, did you light
like
your lantern or
Mercury's
anything, or
death,
did you
but,
leave it off? Left it off.
Fuck. I left it off. Canonically,
Okay.
I left it off because Nyx can see.
All right. And Atreus's initiative was 21.16. And when we come back next Sunday, I'm gonna need some deck saves from you guys as you eat a fireball. As that is all I've got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was fun. I know it was like a little weird, a little plotty at parts.
Excuse me. I would like to file a complaint that we
With what?
just lost our fireball user. How dare you hit us with a fireball in the session directly afterwards? I would like to file a formal complaint to RD&D.
Oh my god. Nick, it's okay. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh god. All right. 21.16. There you go. Now your initiative is up to date. Oh lordy. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. I am certainly excited to see how this interesting little confrontation with the spirits goes for our wonderful little group. Contesting with the undead of Tillamook, the spirits of Hades bursting forth through this thinned veil between the realms here on these high, lofty peaks. The gate of the dead keep the undead locked away. But now there are living souls beckoning them forward. Something to consume, something to take for themselves. Will our heroes overcome these challenges? Or will they join the sad and sorrowful marching ranks of the Hades born? Tune in next Sunday and find out.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys are excited to get to the necropolis, because I promise you, we're almost there. I didn't totally cut out a bunch of stuff. I totally did. I'm a good person. That's all I got for you. I hope to see you next time. We are off for Song of Rapture this upcoming week, as stuff is changing and moving around and shuffling, and we need to give the DM some time to recharge his batteries so we can keep delivering that kick-ass Song of Rapture nonsense. Be sure to check out and next week, you're right. Yeah, off 2 weeks for Song of Rapture, so our DM can recharge. Be sure to check out the VODs so you can see some fun and interesting combat, some situations requiring the party to split apart and fight on multiple fronts, confronting bosses, sometimes with only a pair of them. And also some really compelling roleplay. See Persephone's arc come to fruition in the most beautiful and wonderful way. Tell me you have familial trauma without telling me you have familial trauma. And why didn't Daddy tell me he loved me? See me and Brendan get into it. It's tons of fun. Lots of bickering and fighting and quote unquote character growth. We shall see how it all shakes out as we go into the desert. And something crazy happened with Luna, so don't miss out on that as well. Check that out from the last episode. That's all I've got for you. We're gonna go ahead and find some.
May or may not be a dragon.
May or may not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Know.
Most likely not.
I
But
mean,
Brendan.
I'm
She
a
might be.
god, so who knows? She very well could be a dragon. That'd be pretty hot, not gonna lie. So we're gonna go ahead and host somebody who's a friend of the channel, playing some D&D of themselves. And as always, may your dice roll 20s, and you always make your saves.
Bye-bye.